thank you for being there. Now, I will tell you the phone is not working, Dave. They've had some phone problems here, some internet problems here at the field, so the studio is not working like it should. But you can watch us, and I'm sorry you can't call and talk to us, but maybe next time, I hope. But anyway, we're going to get started. We're going to read a few verses in Psalms 140 before getting into current events. But I want to share with you, like I do once in a while, on the lighter side. I think you might just like to have a smile on your face. Now is a good time to have a merry heart. Is that not true? A merry heart works good like a medicine. We need that. But when I read this, I thought about Phil. Now I see people around my age mountain climbing. I feel good getting my leg through my underwear without losing my balance. You know you're getting old when a recliner and a heating pad is your idea of a hot day. And I like this. Y'all see that?
Oh, the skunk.
Open carry, concealed carry.
Porcupine skunk. All right.
So anyway, aren't you glad we can still laugh?
Yeah.
Isn't that a gift from God? And have people you can laugh with. You know, if you're around our house on Thursdays, I got 4 women in the house. I'm all by myself, so I try to be really good. But you know, our office is full of that going on there. But we laugh with each other and joke with each other. I said, you know that it's a good thing we can do this, because if anybody here took offense, this won't last 3 minutes because we all the time picking each other. That's what fellowship's all about, right? I mean, we have serious things to talk about. We do. But when we can share a laugh and a smile and an uplifting comment, why not do it? Is that it, Steve?
Yeah, that's just the way you did it when you go to work.
Yeah,
joke
exactly.
around with the guys.
Yeah.
So the job ain't boring.
You got a job to do, but enjoy your walk.
Yeah.
It's not boring at the house.
No, it's not boring.
It's not boring there anytime.
Psalms 140, David praying. I'm going to read all. It's only 13 verses. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually they are gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poisons in their lips. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man, who have proposed to overthrow my goings. The proud have hid a snare for me, and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. I said unto the Lord, Thou art my God. Hear the voice of my supplications, O Lord. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation. Thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they may rise not up again. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. Evil shall hunt the violent man to overthrow him. I know that the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and the right of the poor. Surely the righteous shall give thanks unto thy name. The upright shall dwell in thy presence. Amen. Powerful prayer. And that's, people say, well, that's not a very kind prayer. You ever hear that? David said, overthrow them. In Psalms 139, he said, I hate you with a perfect hate to those that hate you. Now, I didn't write the Bible, folks. I just preach it, all right? One of our listeners, Gary Roby, out in Arizona, super, super nice guy. Him and his wife go out on the streets every weekend, him and 2 or 3 others sometimes. They go out on the streets and they put up signs like this right here. And it shows a baby's hands on a quarter. The other one shows a baby's body on a dollar bill. One verse says, for the love of the money is the root of all evil. Cursed be he that taketh the word to slay an innocent person. These pictures tell a story in themselves. This happened on our watch. This happened on our watch. Judgment begins where?
That's God.
There you go. Now,
When you first started it in your home.
yep. And I'll give one good comment on Trump. He did designate the farm industry as an essential industry. So they didn't shut down farms. I guess that's good. McDonald's has a new logo to celebrate the social distancing.
That's funny.
And this I thought's interesting. We're seeing all kinds of things happen fulfilling prophecy, are we not?
Yep.
Idaho, Utah, and California, this is last week, had 650 earthquakes registered.
Yep.
6.5 in Utah. No, Salt Lake City.
Right.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah, Salt Lake City, wasn't it? Maybe it's Idaho. I don't know
I
anywhere.
think it was Idaho, wasn't
It was
Maybe.
Utah.
Idaho.
it? Was it Utah?
Yeah, Utah. It was the epicenter.
How doubt you doubt me? Phil? How dare you?
It might
Anyway,
have something to do with potatoes.
It has to do with the
they're getting too big. Oh, and I was listening to a radio show used to coming home on our station down in Eddie, and this is supposed to be a true story. Now, I don't understand all this, but Phil probably would. Seismic activity in the earth. You know what that is. Said that geologists and people that track these things can track the slightest movement now before they couldn't because so much activity on Earth, the people moving kept it out of kilter. Said everybody's staying at home and the Earth's quieter. They can track it better. I'm serious. I'm serious.
Had
not so many people
a
moving.
good friend tell me that her and her daughter and son-in-law had figured out how they were going to plant a garden because they
Go down.
wanted to learn. They wanted to learn to plant and wanted to learn to can and everything. And my friend was telling me and said, she told him you better get. She said, I forgot about you all having seeds, but said you better get your seeds because I got a feeling they're not will be around long. Well, they come home and she said, well, did you get all your seeds? He said, yeah,
Well, listen to this,
we
everybody.
found all. And I mean, this couple
It's in the
is very
30s.
intelligent,
Yeah.
and in their 30s. And she said, Mom, we got all the seeds we're supposed to get except we couldn't find the potato seeds. Serious, very, very well educated, top in the class.
That shows a generation. Anyway, only in America. Nevada's legalized sex workers say that so far, at least, the pandemic has been good for business. Roxanne Price, 25, theorized that coronavirus fear is reminding people that life is short and causing those with sexual goals to visit sex workers like me sooner than later. See where man's mind goes when judgment comes. Instead of turning from evil, they run more evil.
What they want to get in, what they think they might miss.
And another of the week. Only in America. The Hobby Lobby chain of craft stores is staying open during the pandemic after the CEO's wife received a message from God. In a letter to employees, CEO David Green explained that while the coronavirus pandemic is certainly concerning, God informed his wife Barbara that last week that he will specifically protect Hobby Lobby and its employees and grew us to be better than we could have ever thought possible. Hey, I'm not laughing about that. I mean, that's a Christian organization. I don't know. A Portland, Oregon strip club forced to close its doors during a pandemic has reinvented itself as Uber Eats, whose scantily clad dancers deliver takeout food to lonely customers.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Oh, great.
Crazy.
I'm serious. I mean, said Sean Bolden, the owner of Lucky Devil Lounge, says customers are giddy when one of his 25 strippers comes to the door. This is America. Good week for priorities after New York Governor Andrew Cuomo exempted liquor stores from his order closing all non-essential businesses. Good week for shortcuts after Pope Francis advised the planet's 1.2 billion Catholics that if they can't confess in person to a priest during the pandemic, they should speak directly to God.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
God doesn't need an intermediary.
I got one. Name is Jesus. I mean, you know.
Well, right.
Yeah. Bad week for Rolo, 7, a Dachshund from the United Kingdom, who was diagnosed with a sprained tail from excessively wagging it out of joy that its owners were self-isolating at home instead of leaving it for work. The dog's happy it broke his tail. So anyway, Texas, Ohio, Mississippi. Republican governors in Texas, Ohio, Mississippi outlawed most abortions this week, saying these bans follow a nationwide call to halt elective surgeries amid the COVID-19 virus. So maybe it's saving some lives.
Yeah, it is.
They overturned that though, didn't the courts? rule
They're
against
going to rule it. Have you ruled it yet?
I think they
No,
did.
They in this state, Jim just said they will continue doing abortions.
Yeah.
Well, I don't doubt that.
And President Trump said he's not going to be wearing a mask or gloves or only whatever.
Right.
That's what he said.
But he wants to make us wear a mask.
Now, there are some good things coming out of this virus thing. I just noticed weeks ago, since this virus started, we've had no terrorist attacks anywhere in the world, no mass shootings, You never noticed that? No mass shooting going on.
No.
No war started. So this makes shut down the whole world. Everybody's scared to leave the house, even the crooks.
And this is the third day without chemtrails in the skies.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Ammunition sales on ammo.com rose by as much as 730% in Colorado and 390% in Ohio between February 23rd and March 15th. But if you're going to be hiding in the house, what does it do?
You better be stocking up on beans and bacon.
You get that right.
Beans, rifles, bullets.
Trump calls for additional $2 trillion bailout on top of the one you have already.
Yeah.
Now, you know, what difference does it make? There's so far in debt now they can't pay it. What's another $2 trillion? Seriously, I mean that, really.
Inflation.
Yeah, I mean, Trump said there's going to be a debt default. He said that means a global reset. That's what he said. He said he's going to default on the debt. What's that mean? A new world currency is on the door.
Digital.
The UN several years ago asked for a worldwide currency, and it's almost to happen. Trump said he's going to default on the debt, which means the dollar will be useless. Now, you all pay attention to this. I'm telling you this. It's true. If you got cash in the bank, you break it down there and do something with it worthwhile because it's going to nothing. And I sent Phil the video, 1 minute video of a lady from the
We're showing it today.
FDIC. Are you?
Yeah.
Saying leave your money in the bank. Don't get it in the bank. Leave your money in the bank. Now I tell you something. The banks are scared. And by the way, the banks all they have open now is windows, right? Mm-hmm. Pretty soon they have employees. You don't need 15 employees to answer the window. Think about these things.
No, they already did at our bank.
Pennsylvania laid off 9,000 state workers just yesterday. One congressman, by the name of Thomas Massey, voted against this bailout, known to be bad for the people and the economy, and he's hated by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The only man with any sense in the country, but he's hated by everybody. And we've been talking about this on the radio, it's Spatial Melodies program for years, but also here. Your 401ks and IRAs that you have put away somewhere in the stock market, by the way, they've already dropped 30-some% in the last couple of weeks. But nonetheless, we knew this was going to happen because that's ready cash. Ready cash that somebody can use to bail themselves out with. So guess who's going to do it? The federal government's going to nationalize your retirement accounts.
They're going to nationalize everything.
Think about that. Ford Motor Company quit making cars. Y'all know that, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
to the gym.
And GM's doing the same thing.
So did Toyota.
That's called nationalizing businesses. Then Hitler did, and they called Nazis. Anyway, a town in Pennsylvania, in Luzerne County, Pennsylvania, Gertie Supermarket, somebody sneezed, whether it's pregnant or not, they don't know, sneezed on the produce, so they threw out $35,000 of food and restocked it. I mean, I don't know. And here's showing checkpoints coming out of states. They tell you to get ready to pull over to be checked.
If you're in West Virginia, you better stay here.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, Justice said the other day, Justice said plain out, we don't want you here out of state. He said that, didn't he, Marcia? Mm-hmm. We don't want you here.
It used to be our motto was open for business.
Exactly.
Now we're closed.
Yeah. We're closed for business.
And I'm sure Phil's going to show videos today of the fake hospitals.
Yep.
The tents are empty.
Yep.
Hospitals are dead.
Yep.
This is footage that was shown supposed to be a New York hospital. It's a hospital in Italy.
Right.
What is this?
I was talking to my chiropractor. She works as an EMT over in Pittsburgh. They told her to take the next couple days off.
Really?
She's there from Friday afternoon till Saturday. They told her take the next 3 days off. We don't need you.
But Justice Department, Pompeo asked Congress for indefinite detention powers to fight coronavirus. What's detention? Arrest.
Lock you up with no.
It's arrest.
It's arrest. Yeah, it's jail.
Maybe house arrest, but it's arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does anybody see anything? Does anybody see a coup taking place here?
Yeah.
He also said this was an exercise. Too.
Yeah, he did. We're going to correct. We see the video, folks. We got a bunch of videos to show you. This will go over a little bit today as far as current events, probably, but don't miss it. And don't miss the Bible study because it's very important, please.
So was Y2K.
Yeah, exactly. In Laredo, Texas, the city council just passed a law that if you're out in public, if you're on public transportation or walking the streets or shopping, and you don't have a face mask on, you're fined $1,000.
Well, I heard that in the radio.
Mm-hmm.
We heard it last night.
Laredo,
Texas.
Texas.
In Texas. I thought it was Oklahoma. Texas.
As of right now, half of the world's population is under quarantine. 3.9 billion people.
I believe it.
But who gives a hoot, right? Lindsey Graham asked Trump to suspend all domestic air travel for the next 30 days.
What's her name?
Lindsey Graham.
I mean,
He asked Trump to suspend all domestic air travel for the next 30 days. Suspend all air travel for the next 30 days. What, folks, are we seeing anything happening that we talked about 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Said President Donald Trump said Wednesday he's certainly looking at potentially restricting air travel between the U.S. cities, especially those with significant numbers of coronavirus cases.
So what happens next week? Do they nationalize the air travel industry?
They basically already have. I got this from James McKinney. Y'all know James McKinney?
Oh, yeah.
McKinney.
Physicist.
Yeah, he had been on a program tonight. Highly intelligent man. Guy lives in Hawaii. And I mean, he's an absolutely intelligent man. Said, I'm having trouble with my internet here. We'll keep you posted today. I had to travel to a different location, do emails, etc. Report from a nurse in ER in Columbus Major Hospital for one of the epidemics of the COVID, he said COVID-10, but 19 is supposed to be. No patients, a ghost town by her statement, meaning there's no one in the hospital and no patients.
oh.
That's Ohio.
That's Ohio. I mean, we have been duped. We are being duped and continue to be duped. You know how people are easily duped? They're ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Ignorant and free never was and never will
Can be. And this comes from Anthony Fauci. You know Fauci? The little weasel standing behind
Oh,
the podium?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
He said this in New England Journal of Medicine
Mm-hmm.
that the death from coronavirus, if you catch it, the chance of dying are 0.1%.
Yeah.
And with regular flu, it's 0.2 and 0.3%. But coronavirus, then he says everybody gonna die gets it. Panic, panic. But he said 0.1%.
They can actually tell you the truth at the same time, and people still can't think for themselves.
They don't tend to hear the truth.
They don't want to. They're too lazy.
Well, the cold and the flus for coronavirus.
It is. Yes, there are
That's
dozens
all.
of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to see that.
It's common.
I just finished an article. Next time I'll bring a copy of it, entitled "Fearful People." Talk about that. I put the figures down. I'll share the figures in a minute. I put in the article to prove that the flu is a lot more dangerous than this coronavirus. FDA aggressively attacking colloidal silver products to clear the way for Big Pharma and the coronavirus vaccine.
I make my own.
This is Natural News, good source. Companies that sell colloidal silver, which could provide protection against infection with the Wuhan coronavirus, now face possible reprimand from the United States Food and Drug Administration for selling fraudulent products. The federal agency, which only considers pharmaceuticals to possess any medical benefits, says it recently issued warnings letters to multiple firms instructing them to stop suggesting that colloidal silver can in any way help prevent, treat, mitigate, diagnose, or cure the Wuhan coronavirus. Instead of focusing on FDA-approved pharmaceuticals, which may even kill hundreds of thousands of Americans every year. Anyway, they would anyone, including natural news, they sell some. They would get a letter too. Quit saying this could help. They didn't say it cure. It said it could help.
Oh, we do
Yeah, but we
that.
know that the nano silver.
We do
will
the
fix
nano
your
silver.
problem.
Yep.
Now, listen to this, and this is in the next article too. But I went on when I put something in those letters. As far as information goes, I look it up. I don't make it up. I look it up. Because I know somebody's going to challenge me one day, and I'm going to show where I got it. You know, I've been on radio last month, made 27 years on radio. I was a fairly young man when I started. Look what it done to me. But anyway, in 1918, the Spanish flu or swine flu hit the country. The population of this country is 103,268,000 people.
That's not very,
Not very many. 675,000 died with that.
No,
They didn't shut the world down.
No.
They didn't shut the country down. In 1957, the Hong Kong flu.
Yep.
Population is 171.98. 116,000 died with that. 1960, 108.7. 97,197 died with flu that year. 1980, 226.5 million. 79,964 died that year. 1990, 250.1 million. 92,000 died that year. 2000 had 282 million people, 69,000 died. 2020, 327 million people, a little more. Projected death of coronavirus is 200,000. Less than 3 times the amount it was in 1918 with the flu.
Yep.
And everybody, oh my God. 22,000 already died of flu this year. Through March, 22,000 died of flu. 22,000 died of flu.
That's in this
3,000.
country. That's in this country.
Yeah, this country alone. That's what I'm talking about. This is America right here.
Yeah,
And people are, they had 620, 75, almost 700,000 died in 1918. I mean, they project 200,000 maybe with this. And shut down the country, and the people said, yes, Massa, whatever you say, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Did they not? Are they not?
They just was
I mean, the churches even bowed down to them and
Yeah.
didn't say a word. 2 preachers stood up and got arrested. God bless them.
The news media demonized it for a long time before it get here.
Yeah, they did.
Butch, I also heard a report yesterday from another talk show host. Yeah. He mentioned that it's very possible that people dying just from regular flu. Whoops, coronavirus killed it. They're going to push a lot of these diseases that has no connection to coronavirus,
Oh, they died of
and they're going to say they're
coronavirus.
going to die from coronavirus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They died from
That's how they're getting their numbers.
numbers.
The reporter went about 2-3 days ago. One reporter, one brave young woman, asked President Trump how many have recovered or been cured from the corona. Oh no, that wasn't President Trump. That's that
Fuji.
doctor.
Fuji.
I think one woman.
Dr. Woman. Okay, I don't know.
Okay, and it was a woman, and forgot her name. Anyway, I'll remember later.
Begins with a B.
And said, she was like fumbling with her words. She goes, I don't know. I don't have those numbers. How come you don't have the numbers and you know how many died and you throw them all together and claim them to be corona?
And if you notice when they announce that the coronavirus killed somebody, they usually say that there's other problems too, like diabetes or high blood pressure were added into
And
it
she
too.
didn't know.
Or upper respiratory.
Yeah.
There was also one case, a doctor on the radio,
3% or 1%.
one of these Atkins or something
Atkins, that's her name. That's
was,
right.
and she said one doctor died from coronavirus. And the reporter asked, okay, what is his name and where was that? She said, I can't disclose that.
Bull.
I can't
Yeah.
disclose that.
Bull.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay, here's part of the reasons why I pay attention. This is happening. ID 2020 plans digital registration to accompany vaccines. Digital registration. What's digital mean? Numbered? Tracked?
Number to track.
The idea is that a blockchain ID will be created for you at the time of your vaccination, recording your event in a master database that could not be corrupted. The ID 2020 Alliance has launched a new digital ID program at its annual summit in New York in collaboration with the government of Bangladesh, of all places, Vaccine Alliance GAVI, G-A-V-I, and new partners in government, academia, and humanitarian relief. The program to leverage immunization as an opportunity to establish digital ID was unveiled by ID 2020 in partnership with the Bangladesh government Access to Information program director, and I can't see Health Services and GAVA, according to the announcement. Digital ID is a computerized record of who a person is, stored in a registry. It is used in this case to keep track of those who have received vaccination. We're implementing a forward-looking approach to digital ID that gives individuals control over their own personal information, that we have control over, right? While still building off existing systems and programs, says Arnar Klojuri, policy advisor. The government of Bangladesh recognizes that the design of digital ID systems carries far-reaching implications for individuals' access to services and livelihoods, and we're eager to pioneer this approach. So pay attention to what I just said to you. Slow down here. Carries far-reaching implications for individuals' access to services and livelihoods.
Uh-huh.
Livelihood.
Now, Known Traveler Digital ID, KTDI. On March 26, 2020, World Economic Forum published specifications and launched a new website for a project that is the Christian Known Travel Digital ID, KTDI. KTDI is a surveillance by design vision for tracking and control of travelers, more dystopian than anything we've seen before. KTDI would use a blockchain-based distributed ledger to bind together through an app on a traveler's mobile device all the following data: biometrics, facial images, possibly finger scans, whatever, government-issued ID credentials, passports, and on, travel history, logs of border crossings, hotel stays, and possibly also car rentals and/or other events, purchase logs and possibly bank account information and/or other financial transaction records, pre-crime predictive risk assessment. The Minority Report.
What crime?
And profiling scores generated as such as intervention point before and during each trip or transaction. This is right here, right now, coming. If you saw the movie Minority Report, you saw the pre-crime prevention. Okay? Now, should this concern us? Is this part of the beast system or not?
It is.
It is.
All right, move on. Denver liquor stores dispensaries exempt from stay-at-home order. Denver Mayor Michael Hancock announced a stay-at-home order on Monday afternoon, closing all non-essential services, but he didn't close the pot stores or the liquor stores.
Two necessities for life.
And of course, you already know about the Pastor Brown in Tampa, Florida, was arrested for having church against the rules. So in Louisiana. Now I got to share this, and I understand the guy said this. I respect because he has a lot of things written around on the money, but he's talking about the two main commandments: love God with all heart, mind, soul, and strength, and neighbors as thyself. Right? He said the pastor in Florida had the first one right, the second one wrong. Think. He loved God enough to have church, but he didn't love his fellow neighbors enough not to have it.
Oh.
Yeah, there was only one talk show host on American Family Radio who said that's not right when the church is shut down. There was only one. All the rest of them went on and said, "Oh, you got to do this," you know.
Well, if we're told to fellowship together, especially when you see the last days coming, surely you can see that.
Mm-hmm.
If we love God and do what He says, does that not show we love our neighbors enough to fellowship and support them also?
Who do we trust?
Exactly. Now here's an article, of course, that says, does the church belong to Caesar? I'm not sure which is more sad. The American pastors are being arrested for having public worship service, or that most Christians seem to be perfectly fine with that travesty. While I always assumed the American church would fold at the first sign of persecution, it turns out they have folded for far easier than that. They didn't have to be beaten, shot, or tortured, and merely had to be commanded by a government to stop beating, and most squeamishly complied. The First Amendment had been discarded as nothing more than a quaint footnote to a bygone era, to a time when patriots valued their freedom to assemble and worship as they pleased, to a time when they would rather die than give up the freedom, and to a time when a nation was formed with the idea of enshrining this freedom as the law of the land. Sadly, today we are told it is our patriotic duty to cancel church services for the sake of the greater good.
Well, that's putting nationalism before God.
Oh, absolutely. Now, this comes from a pro-life group. America's pro-life leaders today voiced alarm that churches were being forced to close down. The pastor was jailed for holding Sunday worship services, while abortion clinics are allowed to stay open in every state except Texas, Oklahoma, and Iowa during the COVID-19 lockdown. How dare they jail pastors and close the doors of the church while the abortion industry remains open to spread the virus and put our lives at risk, said Janet Porter, president and founder of the Faith to Action and the author of the original pro-life heartbeat bill. While free speech and freedom of religion are being banned, Planned Parenthood continues to get away with murder, said Mark Harrington, president of Created Equal, a pro-life group. The cure is now worse than the disease.
Since shedding of innocent blood has brought this curse.
Absolutely, absolutely. And evil, immoral people, folks, are easily controlled because they're scared all the time.
Yep.
Now, Louisiana church packed for services again despite charges against pastor amid pandemic. A few protesters turned out too, including a man shouting through a bullhorn against those gathering in the Life Tabernacle Church in the city of Central, where Pastor Tony Spell has been holding services. Another demonstrator held up a sign and said, God don't like stupid. He's holding it for himself, probably. Anyway, CBS Baton Rouge affiliate WAFB-TV reported that service was jammed with hundreds of parishioners. The station said there were also dozens of cars on the hand to see if anyone stopped stop Spell from holding the service. Afterward, people began leaving the church, some chatting outside the front doors, and many appearing to not be adhering to social distancing recommendations, to remain at least 6 feet apart. Hugs and handshakes were shared freely by people, said their goodbyes, and departed. Hours earlier on Tuesday, Spell was issued a summons for holding services previously at the church in violation of the governor's order banning gatherings. "Come out, Tony. Come tell us why you're endangering people's lives," the man with the bullhorn shouted Tuesday evening, directing his words at the pastor. Flanked with some of his congregation, including the children and other older people, Spell emerged from the church later Tuesday night and said he's going to keep his church doors open. He said he doesn't consider doing that any different than keeping the doors of Walmart open. Spell also compared going to church to going to the hospital for spiritual healing. So one church has stood up. Praise God for one church. Okay.
Well, this is church here, Butch.
Yes, it is. It is. And there's 10 of us here.
We're not on social distancing.
No, we're not. I find that Marcia back in the house. Anyway. 3 unmistakable signs that war is coming to America. Pompeo orders all American citizens to immediately return to the USA. Now, I don't have time to get all these. But President Trump activating 1 million military reservists with medical skills to treat battlefield injuries. The Pentagon ordering high-level staffers into deep underground bunkers in Colorado.
Yes.
This all happened.
Yes.
Secretary of State Pompeo just ordered all Americans living overseas to return to the U.S. immediately. The cover story, of course, is the coronavirus. But they think there's more to it than that, and I wouldn't doubt it. All right. And the final one, just in case you're worried about this, sex robot firms selling antibacterial dolls for coronavirus self-isolation.
Oh, that'll relieve me,
That's a
Brian.
big
Oh, that's a big relief.
This, folks, you know, this is why America is going down.
Yeah.
It really is. Katy Perry. Y'all know who Katy Perry
Oh,
is?
yes, of course.
I mean, she's a preacher's daughter, sold her soul to the devil. She said so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just put out a song. It's been a while back. I didn't bring it up for a while because I wanted to confirm I know what I was talking about.
Yes.
She put out a song about cannibalism, and she's the main course.
Yeah, yeah.
Shows on a platter being served. Cannibalism is for real in this country. Many celebrities are into it. I'm telling the truth. I can prove it, but I'm not going to do it right now. Cannibalism is only another degrading sign of society. And as I told people in the next article I'll be putting out, these things have always been here, but society didn't used to tolerate it.
Now they're
Today they're embraced.
Yep.
Who was it once said, a preacher I shared it many times, that what you tolerate today will embrace tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's
There we are. Folks, got several videos to show you. Don't go away. We'll show you the videos. You're back here for the Bible study.
We're living in unprecedented time. At a time of a pandemic like this, it is way too easy to get confused and to have fear about what you should be doing with your money in your accounts, especially as you're looking at the volatility in the stock market and the financial sector. This is what I would like you to take away from this. Your money is safe at the banks. The last thing you should be doing is pulling your money out of the banks now, thinking that it's going to be safer someplace else. You don't want to be walking around with large wads of cash, and you certainly don't want to be hoarding cash in your mattress. It didn't pan out well for so many people. And I will tell you this, no depositor has lost a penny of their insured deposits since 1933, when the FDIC was created. So if you're talking about having your money in a safe place, please keep it in an FDIC insured bank.
Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-Minute Papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. It is important for you to know that everybody can make deepfakes now. You can turn your head around, mouth movements are looking great, and eye movements are also translated into the target footage. And of course, as we always say, 2 more papers down the line and it will be even better and cheaper than this.
As you see, some papers are so well done and are so clear that they just speak for themselves. This is one of them. To use this technique, all you need to do is record a video of yourself, add just one image of the target subject, run this learning-based algorithm, and there you go. If you stay until the end of this video, you will see even more people introducing themselves as me. As noted, many important gestures are being translated, such as head, mouth, and eye movement, but what's even better is that even full body movement works. Absolutely incredible. Now, there are plenty of techniques out there that can create deepfakes, many of which we have talked about in this series. So, what sets this one apart? Well, one, most previous algorithms required additional information, for instance, facial landmarks or a pose estimation of the target subject. This one requires no knowledge of the image. As a result, this technique becomes so much more general. We can create high-quality deepfakes with just one photo of the target subject, make ourselves dance like a professional, and, what's more, hold on to your papers because it also works on non-humanoid and cartoon models, and even that's not all, we can even synthesize an animation of a robot arm by using another one as a driving sequence. So, why is it that it doesn't need all this additional information? Well, if we look under the hood, we see that it is a neural network-based method that generates all this information by itself. It identifies what kind of movements and transformations are taking place in our driving video. You can see that the learned key points here follow the motion of the videos really well. Now we pack up all this information and send it over to the generator to warp the target image appropriately, taking into consideration possible occlusions that may occur. This means that some parts of the image may now be uncovered where we don't know what the background should look like. Normally, we would do this by hand with an image in-painting technique. For instance, you see the legendary patch match algorithm here that does it. However, in this case, the neural network does it automatically by itself. If you are seeking for flaws in the output, these will be important regions to look at. And it not only requires less information than previous techniques, but it also outperforms them significantly. Yes, there is still room to improve this. For instance, the sudden head rotation here seems to generate an excessive amount of visual artifacts. The source code and even an example Colab notebook is available. I think it is one of the most accessible papers in this area. Don't miss out and make sure to have a look in the video description and try to run your own experiments. Let me know in the comments how they went, or feel free to drop by at our Discord server where all of you fellow scholars are welcome to discuss ideas and learn together in a kind and respectful environment. The link is available in the video description, it is completely free, and if you have joined, make sure to leave a short introduction. Now, of course, beyond the many amazing use cases of this in reviving deceased actors, creating beautiful visual art, redubbing movies, and more, unfortunately, there are people around the world who are rubbing their palms together in excitement to use this to their advantage. So, you may ask, why make these videos on deepfakes? Why spread this knowledge, especially now with the source codes? Well, I think step number one is to make sure to inform the public that these deepfakes can now be created quickly and inexpensively, and they don't require a trained scientist anymore. If this can be done, it is of utmost importance that we all know about it. Then, beyond that, step number two, as a service to the public, I attend to EU and NATO conferences and inform key political and military decision makers about the existence and details of these techniques to make sure that they also know about these, and using that knowledge, they can make better decisions for us. You see me doing it here. And again, you see this technique in action here to demonstrate that it works really well for video footage in the wild. Note that these talks and consultations all happen free of charge, and if they keep inviting me, I'll keep showing up to help with this in the future as a service to the public. The cool thing is that later, over dinner, they tend to come back to me with a summary of their understanding of the situation, and I highly appreciate the fact that they are open to what we, scientists, have to say. And now, please enjoy the promised footage.
Dear fellow scholars, this is 2-Minute Papers with Dr. Károly Zsolnai Fehér. It is important for you to know that everybody can make deepfakes now. You can turn your head around, mouth movements are looking great, and eye movements are also translated into the target footage. And of course, as we always say, 2 more papers down the line and it will be even better, and cheaper than this.
When did the CDC start letting other agencies know that there was something in China happening, that this coronavirus was happening? And then when did the whole government approach start to happen?
So I'll let the CDC or Dr. Fauci, you want to talk to that? Yeah, Secretary Azar, please. Yeah.
Yeah, so we were alerted by some discussions that Dr. Redfield, the director of the CDC, had with Chinese colleagues on January 3rd. It's since been known that there may have been cases in December, not that we were alerted in December. Not that we were alerted in December.
And then, Mr. President, the other question I have for you. And then, Mr. President, the other question I have for you.
Excuse me, we'll do it in a second. Let Mike.
May I just have one more thing? There's been some discussion about China and what they knew and when they knew it, and I've been very critical. We need to know immediately. The world is entitled to know. The Chinese government was the first to know of this risk to the world, and that puts a special obligation to make sure that the data gets to our scientists, our professionals. This is not about retribution. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. We need to make sure that even today, the data sets that are available to every country, including data sets that are available to the Chinese Communist Party, are made available to the whole world. It's an imperative to keep people safe. We talk about the absence of data sets, not being able to make judgments about what to do. This is absolutely critical. This transparency, this real-time information sharing isn't about political games or retribution. It's about keeping people safe. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right.
Hello YouTube family, it's me, Miss Dana Ashley. Today we're out getting a little exercise, but I wanted to report something that is amazing. In an earnest attempt to sort fact from fiction, citizen reporters are popping up and hitting the streets to verify whether or not what we're hearing about these hospitals is true.
Approximately how many coronavirus patients have you seen? How many? You don't know? 2? 100? 3. You've seen 3.
So again, there are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
How do you know they had coronavirus? Do you guys test in the ambulance? You don't know. You assume. Symptoms.
Can you blame Americans for wanting to verify the truth when networks like CBS are doing things like this?
Cases are being found right here. Crowded subway cars may have accelerated the spread. New York's governor says FEMA gave the state 400 ventilators. To that, he said this.
What am I going to do with 400 ventilators when I need 30,000?
So when you're watching this from CBS, the slant, is the great need for the equipment. We don't have enough equipment. So the crowded, ER shot demonstrates we have an epicenter of this disease in New York, and we don't have enough. We need 30,000 ventilators. But the only problem is this footage has already run on Sky News on March 22nd talking about Italy. Yeah.
This is the main hospital in Bergamo in Lombardy province. It's one of the most advanced hospitals in Europe. But it's the most hard hit of all the hospitals.
Once again this morning, the city's hospitals will be on the front lines in this war against the coronavirus. In Elmhurst, Queens, that hospital there, lines of people lining up already this morning for about the last 45 minutes. Confirmed cases, people waiting to get tested. Supplies are in demand there.
Somebody said there will be hordes of people inside. That's why I didn't go in. Let's see. The doctor with his mask on and everything. Look at that. Nobody. Completely empty. This is police, no EMS, nothing. Nothing, absolutely. Ghosts. That's all they got you afraid of, ghosts.
With the growing number of patients as supplies dwindle. You can see barricades behind us set up here outside of the hospital to keep order here because so many have been lining up every day to get tested.
Where's the long lines of people trying to get tested? I don't see that.
I just wanted to give you guys an idea of what it looks like here in New York City. The mayor, the governor says our hospitals have been turned into war zones. Well, I want to give you an idea of what that war zone looks like here in downtown Brooklyn. So this is my neighborhood. This is the Brooklyn Hospital Center. And again, you're hearing one thing on the mainstream media, and this is what it's like in reality. This is where people normally stand up to get testing for the coronavirus. But as you can see, not much happening. And this is a hospital that serves thousands and thousands of people here in downtown Brooklyn, New York. There are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
Now here's those tents they had set up. This is what you saw on the news.
At Elmhurst Hospital, lines of people outside wait to get tested. A refrigerated truck has now been brought in here, a makeshift morgue.
Here's the refrigerated truck for the dead people, but no action.
Ambulances have seen a surge in calls, responding to nearly 5,800 Thursday.
All parked ambulances, no patients, nobody's rushing anywhere.
In fact, we've got a couple of ambulances here waiting to be called into action. Here's some busy, crazy busy guys. Yep, they're on their cell phone, watching Netflix.
And officials say this, unfortunately, is just the beginning, with the crisis expected to last for months and the peak of it all still on the horizon. We are live in Elmhurst, Queens this morning. Rena Roy, CBS 2 News.
Rena, thank you.
Nothing, absolutely. Ghosts. That's all they got you afraid of, ghosts. Hello. What? Oh, no problem.
Phyllis and William Mack Pavilion here on 7th Avenue. There's one guy in the waiting room. It's not too crazy. And as you see, there's an emergency sign, open 24/7, and new people.
We control the disease by controlling the information.
You can't protect the public by lying to them.
It's done every day.
Walk-in healthcare clinics around the state say they've been overwhelmed by the demand for coronavirus testing, causing frustration.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response to people wanting testing.
Urgent Care Hawaii says its drive-up service was deluged by requests for coronavirus tests, some waiting as long as 4 hours.
Here's my question, guys. What's the game here? You're smart people. Why are they whipping us into a panic? Why are they lying about massive lines of people at testing centers? Night after night being told there are these long lines of people being managed at the urgent care, that they're being overwhelmed.
Some waiting as long as 4 hours.
Actually, the president or CEO of urgent care, while I was in front of the place, was telling me, we're doing the best we can, managing these massive lines. I'm like, I'm here, lady. And there's no lines.
As you can see, the ER, the hospital, is not overwhelmed. Where are all these sick people at for this quarantine? Hospital number 2. The first one was Norton East in Louisville, Kentucky. And this one is Baptist East in Louisville, Kentucky. The first one had nobody waiting in the waiting area. 2 nurses are sitting at the desk. The quarantine tent where they take the test was empty.
People look at the testing centres. This is what they're telling you testing is going on in. Where's the testing? They're empty. They're abandoned people. There is no testing going on. Where's the testing? Where is it? The show that's getting put on for you. Leo and Coveney and Simon will be down out for the photo up soon and have loads of people with masks letting on to be coming in to get tested. Look, there we are. There is no bloody testing. Right down to the end, look. There is no testing going on in these tents.
The quarantine tent where they take the test was empty. We're going to see what this one's like. Let's go. As you can see, waiting area is empty. Alright. I'm just looking for my family. They were supposed to be here already waiting. It might be another hospital. Nobody's in there. Nurses are just taking an easy day.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response.
I just want to know why urgent care doesn't want me to document. They're lying on the news about being overwhelmed with lines and testing all these people. They're taking state money and they're not testing anyone. They're taking our money. Look at that line, officer. Do you see that line? So are these the overwhelming lines that you guys have been lying to the people of Hawaii about? I'm a journalist, and this is going to be a column and it's going to be read nationally.
That's great.
About how you're lying that there are massive lines.
I never said there were massive.
That you're doing.
We were overwhelmed yesterday with the response.
You tested 25 people here yesterday? You said that. You didn't test 25 people.
Okay, you're videotaping people trying
No, I
to
didn't.
get into a medical
No, I didn't. I got nobody going in.
No.
Are you the CEO of urgent care? Wow, you must be upset.
So it seems like people all over the world are sick of lies in the media. So sick of it that they've decided to do something about it. They're on the scene doing the work that the now so-called approved news outlets should be doing. I myself went to go pick up some food at a local restaurant to help those guys afloat during this unprecedented attack on our small businesses. And the CFO of our local hospital happened to be there as well. And she said that the hospitals were not only completely dead, but that they were, quote, burning through cash like mad, end quote. So part of the reason that the hospitals are empty is because they've canceled all the elective surgeries and things like that. They say, of course, to keep the huge influx of virus folks separated from the public, but
something's going on, folks, and it ain't a virus.
As you can see from this footage taken by one of my subscribers, by the way, who's an attorney, all over California and the greater LA area, which is meant to be more hard hit, right? First to be put on the lockdown. There's no long lines of people dealing with virus present. The parking lots are eerily empty. And I'd like to applaud all these folks with the ability to question what we're being told, who have enough desire for truth to get out and verify it for themselves.
And you guys don't know anything about where the testing is being done? I haven't found a single place that'll test anybody. Do you know? Yeah, they have lists, and then when you go there, they say no.
While my inbox is a nightmare right now, so I want to ask, please don't send me more videos of this kind of thing with the hospitals, unless you can also provide a link to a contradictory news report of the same location that is covering an event that you can disprove with your own on-the-scene footage. Now that I would like to get, but just random video footage of hospitals, I'm afraid that would overwhelm me a little bit. This guy here from Germany had the cojones. He walked through the whole hospital to show the world it is completely empty. And he did comment that the hospital workers were also very dubious about this whole theory as well.
Das ist alles übertrieben und so. Das, was in den Medien berichtet wird, das können Sie nicht nachvollziehen, dass sich das nicht deckt mit dem, was hier tagtäglich passiert.
Oh, and I thought this was really interesting. For those who don't already realize that there is a CORONA, California, and there is a Corona Regional Medical Center within it. And of the over a dozen hospitals this guy ran around diligently checking out, this one too had zero evidence of lines of people getting tested or evidence of chaos. But what it did have were big signs out front surrounded by orange that said, "Hospital Disaster Drill in Progress." Drill, huh? Interesting.
Thanks for watching, you guys. I love you, and we'll see you really, really soon.
Toodles.
I'm going to read to you an article published by Global Research on March 27th, 2020. The link to that article is in the notes below this video. This article, posted by author Julian Rose, is basically a copy-paste of a presentation from a medical forum. The original presenter, identified as a widely respected professional scientist in the U.S., prefers to stay anonymous, because presenting any facts or information which may be contrary to official narratives can cause negative consequences for any medical professional who discloses that information. I have edited the article for clarity without changing its meaning or implications. And I quote, "I work in the healthcare field. Here's the problem. We are testing people for general coronavirus, but we are not testing for any specific strain, such as COVID-19. There are no reliable tests for any specific COVID-19 virus. There are no reliable agencies or media outlets for reporting numbers of actual COVID-19 virus cases. This needs to be addressed first and foremost. Every action and reaction to COVID-19 is based on totally flawed data, and we simply cannot make accurate assessments. That is why you're hearing that most people with COVID-19 are showing nothing more than cold or flu-like symptoms. That's because most coronavirus strains are nothing more than cold or flu-like symptoms. There are a few actual novel coronaviruses, and those cases do have some worse respiratory responses, but still have a very promising recovery rate, especially for those with prior issues. The gold standard in testing for COVID-19, the one that could identify COVID-19, would use laboratory isolated and purified coronavirus particles, free from any contaminants and particles that look like viruses but are not, that have been proven to be the cause of the syndrome known as COVID-19, and obtained by using proper viral isolation methods and controls. But the type of testing being done, some of which are referred to as PCR, do not detect the virus as such. PCR tests, which stands for polymerase chain reaction, basically takes a sample of your cells and amplifies any DNA to look for viral sequences, such as bits of non-human DNA that seem to match parts of a known viral genome. The problem is the test is known to not work. It uses amplification, which means taking a very tiny amount of DNA and growing it exponentially in a laboratory until there is enough of it to be analyzed. Obviously, any minute contaminations in the sample will also be amplified, leading to potentially gross errors of discovery. Additionally, it's only looking for partial viral sequences, not whole genomes, so identifying a single pathogen is next to impossible, even if you ignore the other issues. The test kits being sent out to hospitals are totally inadequate and unprofessional. At best, those test kits tell analysts you have some viral DNA in your cells, which most of us do most of the time. It may tell you the viral sequence is related to a specific type of virus, say the huge family of coronavirus, but that's all. The idea these kits can isolate a specific virus like COVID-19 is complete nonsense. And that's not even getting into the other issue, viral load. If you remember, the PCR test works by amplifying the minute amounts of DNA. It is therefore useless at telling you how much virus you may have. And that's the only question that really matters when it comes to diagnosing illness. Everyone will have a few virus kicking around in their system at any time. Most will not cause illness because their quantities are too small. For a virus to sicken you, you need a lot of it, a massive amount of it. But PCR testing does not test viral load and therefore cannot determine if it is present in sufficient quantities to sicken you. If you feel sick and get a PCR test, any random virus DNA might be identified even if they aren't at all involved in your sickness, and this leads to false diagnosis. Coronavirus are incredibly common. A large percentage of the world, human population, will have COVID DNA in them, small quantities, even if they are perfectly well or sick with some other pathogen. So the implications are quite clear. If you want to create a totally false panic about a totally false pandemic, pick a coronavirus. They are incredibly common and have many different varieties. A very high percentage of people who have become sick by other means like flu or bacterial pneumonia, many other causes, will have a positive PCR test for COVID, even if you're doing the test properly and ruling out contamination, simply because COVIs are so common. There are hundreds of thousands of flu and pneumonia victims in hospitals throughout the world at any one time. To create a false claim of pandemic, all you need to do is select the sickest of these in a single location, say Wuhan, administer PCR tests to them, and claim those few people showing viral sequences similar to a coronavirus are suffering from a presumed new disease. Since you are already selected the sickest flu cases, a fairly high proportion of your sample will go on to die. You can then say that this new virus has a case fatality ratio higher than the flu, and use this to infuse more concern and do more tests, which will of course produce more false cases, which expands the testing, produces yet more false cases, so on, so on, so on. Before long, you have your pandemic. Totally fabricated. All you've done is use a single test kit trick to convert the worst flu and pneumonia cases into something new that doesn't actually exist. Now just run the same scam in other countries. Make sure to keep the fear message running high so people will feel panicky and less able to think critically. Your only problem is going to be that because there's no actual new deadly pathogen, but just regular sick people, you are mislabeling your case numbers and especially your deaths. So your actual deaths attributable to coronavirus are going to be way too low for a real new deadly virus pandemic. But they are preventing people from pointing this out in several ways. First, they claim this is just the beginning and more deaths are imminent. They use this as an excuse to quarantine everyone and then claim the quarantine prevented the expected millions of dead. Second, they tell people that minimizing or downplaying the dangers is irresponsible and bully people into not talking about the real numbers. Third, they talk nonsense about made-up numbers, hoping to blind people with pseudoscience. And then fourth, they start testing well people, who of course will also likely have shreds of coronavirus DNA in them, and thereby inflate the statistics with people with no symptoms. Then they spin that to sound deadly, even though any virologist knows the more symptomless cases you have, the less deadly is your pathogen. Take those 4 simple steps, and you can have your own entirely manufactured pandemic up and running in weeks. But the fact is, no one can say there's a pandemic when there is no accurate or proper testing being done. This is why in most places you will not see a lot of dead people. And if there's a place where a lot of people are dying, no one really knows if it is COVID-19 that's killing them. So that was the Global Research article from late March 2020. If you believe that any information in that article is inaccurate or misleading, please post your response in the comments or contact the producer of this video. When you respond, please provide factual evidence for your position. Whether you think that COVID-19 will kill millions of people or not, you have a right to your opinion, and you have a right to respond as you see fit. Society can be seriously divided and damaged by people who insist that everyone respond to a crisis the same way they do. Should we wear a mask? Should we use bleach? Should we get vaccinations? These are not government's choices. These are your choices. We not only have to look out for ourselves, we have to respect how other people choose to look after themselves. If you feel someone is being careless or causing a hazard, be polite and respectful in how you deal with that. If you think people are overreacting, be polite and respectful in how you deal with that. When we are fighting among ourselves, we simply invite the state to intervene with force, violence, and control, and that is something no one needs. I'm going to speculate as to why all of the media and our political leaders are whipping up hysteria over this idea of global pandemic. Our central banks and our governments have created a financial crisis by using unbacked, debt-based fiat currency, unlimited government borrowing, and impossibly escalating levels of taxation to service all the debt. We are very near now the end of our monetary cycle, where debt can no longer be sustained. Currencies everywhere are being overprinted and nearing collapse. Equity markets are irreparably overvalued, and our currency systems must undergo a major reset. As they desperately issue helicopter money for bailouts and giveaways, the currency will sharply inflate, and trillions of dollars of monetary value will simply disappear for most of us, as those who control currency will collect that wealth. In this process, many people worldwide will suffer losses, poverty, disruption, and sacrifice. Most people are not aware that this disaster was predictable and inevitable. Bankers and elite officials do know what is coming, and they know that people will see that they are to blame for this disaster unless they can come up with a scapegoat. Scapegoats come in the form of things like terrorism, global warming, and global viral pandemics. Manufacturing or exploiting some global threat not only allows blame for the economic disaster to be diverted from central banks and government officials, but also gives an excuse to impose authoritarian public policies so that riots and civil unrest can be harshly dealt with by state-sponsored violence and force. We are being suckered to accept a huge new set of restrictions on our lifestyles and personal liberties, so we will be powerless against official policy. And some kind of new world order can be imposed that without some fabricated crisis would meet violent public opposition. We have been made to believe that we must radically change our lives because of a pandemic. But we're actually changing our lives to relieve central banks and our legislators from the blame for what's happening to our economy. We have seen major stock market crashes. We have seen years of near zero interest rates. We are seeing public debt now multiplying by trillions of dollars per year. Just as central bank and government insiders have expected, our corrupt global economic and currency systems are unraveling. We now see that not only is public debt unsustainable, but even corporate and private debt are at levels where that debt can never be paid off. It's a mathematical impossibility. The cause of the collapse, the depression, the austerity, poverty, and social disorder is not a COVID-19 pandemic. The cause of the economic collapse is worthless, unbacked, debt-based currency, bad economic policy, greed, and irresponsible conduct by government and central bankers, and their belief that they can plunder the world's workers and business owners decade after decade until everything crashes, then pass the blame off onto some unrelated calamity that they either create themselves or exploit to their benefit. In 1913, when the Federal Reserve was created, future economic disasters like we are seeing today were unavoidable. But you are being asked to blame a virus for this supposedly unexpected economic meltdown. The lockdowns, the people forced to not work, the companies forced to not produce, the debtors who will be made unable to pay their debts, the quarantines, curfews, martial law tactics imposed, this whole insane reaction to an alleged pandemic will cause major economic damage. That is what it's designed to do. So all economic failures and crises from now on can be blamed on a virus, not on the people who created the economic corruption in the first place. We do not need to beat a virus. We need to prevent another fake, unbacked currency from replacing the last one. We need to prevent debt and taxation from accruing to pay for exploding public debt and financial mismanagement. We need to demand that no one pledge our future labor to pay for their greedy indulgences. As we slather our living spaces with toxic sanitizing chemicals, as we give up our true social contacts and become even more addicted to our tracked and monitored electronic social media platforms, as we allow idiotic government policies to close our businesses and destroy our jobs, would this not be a good time to think for ourselves and consider whether we are being told the truth, whether we are being used and set up by liars and corrupt officials for their own benefit? Can we do anything to reclaim our lives, our prosperity and hope? Or will we simply believe whatever we are told and obey whatever we are told to do? Obedience and complacency can be good, or it can be a terrible mistake. Trusting media and politicians can be good, or it can be a terrible mistake. I would argue that trusting this pandemic hysteria and participating in economic suicide is a terrible mistake.
The flu season is upon us. Which type will we worry about this year? And what kind of shots will we be told to take? Remember the swine flu scare of 1976? That was the year the U.S. government told us all that swine flu could turn out to be a killer that could spread across the nation. And Washington decided that every man, woman, and child in the nation should get a shot to prevent a nationwide outbreak, a pandemic. Well, 46 million of us obediently took the shot. And now 4,000 Americans are claiming damages from Uncle Sam amounting to $3.5 billion because of what happened when they took that shot. By far the greatest number of the claims, 2/3 of them, are for neurological damage or even death, allegedly triggered by the flu shot. We pick up the story back in 1976 when the threat posed by the swine flu virus seemed very real indeed.
This virus was the cause of a pandemic in 1918 and 1919 that resulted in over 500,000 deaths in the United States, as well as 20 million deaths around the world.
For 30 years, I've been warning people in my books and in every other way I can that this world is controlled by a cult. It's a cult that has no borders. It operates in all the, at least major countries, and in fact, all the countries in the end, and particular in those countries that dictate the direction of the world. So the cult will be at the core of the system in China. It will be at the core of the system in America, etc., etc., etc. And so what have I said in this 30 years that this cult wants? I've said, and I've said it in the chats we've had before, it wants to create a beyond Orwellian global state in which a tiny few people dictate to everyone else. I've referred to this as the Hunger Games society. And you can picture the structure very clearly. Picture a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you've got a tiny few enormously wealthy people that actually are connected to this cult. We now have a name for them. We call them the 1%. At the bottom of this pyramid in the Hunger Games Society is basically the rest of humanity that is dependent upon the 1%. And in between the two is a vicious, merciless police military state to impose the will of the 1% on the population and to prevent the population challenging the 1%.
This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right. This matters going forward. We're in a live exercise here to get this right.
I'm going to back up and talk about what's happened 8 days ago, today, and then the verification. My name is Dave Hodges. You're watching The Common Sense Show, and we are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. All right. This is kind of funny how it works out. A lady contacted me and we arranged for a phone conversation. I agreed not to disclose her area code, where she worked. She was a nurse. We'll leave it at that. And she said that when there was a cause of death, if there was any doubt, and sometimes they didn't even do lab tests, she said they were told to put down the cause of death as coronavirus. And I thought, whoa, somebody wants to inflate this. I held on to it because, like I said, one tip, I didn't have double confirmation and she was too nebulous. I told her she could come on my show anonymously because she spoke like a surgical nurse. She knew all the terms, she had it down, and she sounded like I could believe her. But she was too skittish. She goes, I could be stripped of my credentials. Well, just this morning, I got information from a New York doctor, I can be that specific, who works at one of the hospitals. And I'm not going to give numbers because the numbers could pin back to his hospital. And I don't want those people to come under suspicion because they could be stripped of their medical licenses. But here's what he told me. He said that he had a patient, and I should not mention the condition now that I think about it, because that could be traced to him too. But this patient had a condition other than corona, clearly, no doubt, not respiratory, nothing involved, an entirely different part of the body than coronavirus involves. He listed the cause of death. Someone came over and countermanded that and overrode it and put down coronavirus. And he was like, holy crap. So he began to look at numbers. And what he found was a good majority of the deaths in this hospital that were not due to corona, minority, extreme minority, were being falsely labeled as coronavirus. He found 2 instances of this where he was able to come across this. And you don't know the gender of the doctor. I'm saying he, for convenience reasons. It could be a he, she, or an it. I'm being vague because I don't want to endanger the person. I offered for them to come on my show anonymously. And again, they refused, and I understand why they did. So I'm sitting here and I'm talking to Mike Adams and Steve Quayle and my other contacts today, Paul Martin. And I said, I think this is real. I said, I've got 2 highly intelligent people talking to me. And by the way, a third party brought this second case to me, a third party known to me, which I'm not going to identify. So I've got all these unidentifiers, but consistency. And I can see the reason why they're doing it. So here I'm left with a real quandary. I can't go forward and report this. Not in that form. But lo and behold, I wrote it up. Potential release. I had someone tell me, Dave, I'll run it. I think you got enough. I didn't think I did. not going back on my old research protocols from my training. But lo and behold, this afternoon, I discovered that Stanford University came out and said the cases of coronavirus are being over-exaggerated to a great magnitude. Great magnitude is a quote. Just so happens, up on Steve Quayle's website, you will find that article.
Howdy, folks. I'm Phil Hudak, and this is March 29th, 2020. This is an update that I've promised. You're going to see that the Merck head vaccine researcher, Maurice Hillman, admits that there were cancer viruses in their vaccines, and that these viruses were in vaccines that were distributed to the Russians. And you'll actually hear Maurice laugh when saying that the Russians probably won't do very well in the upcoming Olympics because their bodies will be riddled with tumors from these vaccines from the Merck pharmaceutical company.
It's different. I don't know why to tell you this, but I've been around biology a long time. I just think this virus may have some long-term effects. And he said, what? I said, well, cancer.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead.
No. I said, Albert, you probably think I'm nuts, but I just have that feeling. Well, in the meantime, we had taken this virus and put it into into hamsters. So we had this meeting, and that was sort of the topic of the day, and the jokes that were going around was, gee, we would win the Olympics because the Russians would all be loaded down with tumors. This is where the vaccine was being tested. This was
right. Right.
So, and it really destroyed the meeting. You know, it was a big international.
Yeah, right.
So it was sort of the topic. No.
I mentioned in the beginning that you must have your spiritual life in order. And I quoted Hosea 4:6, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And truth, only truth will set you free. For years I had a cable access show which was Christian News and Views, and I called it Prove All Things, okay, from Scripture. But I want to point out something. This is Ecclesiastes 1:18, and it says, for in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. This is such a crazy time, and people are being fed hype 24 hours a day, radio, TV. They're stuck in their homes. They don't have some of the diversions and escapes that they normally have. And so I want to address this this sorrow and this grief that people are experiencing, and stress that concern is understandable and it is acceptable to God. But fear and being overwhelmed by grief and sorrow. In other words, yes, sorrow increases, and and it says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? Yeah, but our trust is in the Lord. Our future is in the hereafter. This is temporary. And I was led to that Ecclesiastes 1:18 verse. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increaseth knowledge increaseth sorrow. But what do you do about it? Why does the Lord tell us that this happens? And to expect it, but to be able to deal with it. And I was led to a book that I have called Matthew Henry's Commentaries. And I thought, I want to look at this verse and see what his comments are on it and share it with you people, because I think it's important. I just feel led to do that. I feel have a conviction to do that. And the amazing thing is, you've heard of serendipity, okay? The term serendipity is just, defying odds, the odds of happening, but it happens anyway. Well, anyway, this book has 1,986 pages, and I picked up this book, I opened it up, and before I actually looked at where I'd opened it, kind of like in the middle, I had this feeling, this thought, and I don't know how long the thought was in my brain. It had to be for less than a second, maybe a millisecond. I don't know. I don't know how long thoughts take, especially when you're not thinking in words, but it's just a pure thought. Okay? You're not like expressing it in your mind in words. And I thought, I wonder if I'll open this to the scripture I'm looking for. And I did. Out of 1,986 pages, I opened it to Ecclesiastes 1:18. And I want to read the commentary, because I think it's important, okay? Quote, and this is about that very verse, the 18th verse in chapter 1. Let me get a drink here. Quote, those that increase knowledge have so much more the quick and sensible perception of the calamities of this world. Let us not therefore be driven off from the pursuit of any useful knowledge, but put on patience to break through the sorrow of it. But let us despair of finding true happiness in this knowledge, and expect it only in the knowledge of God and the careful discharge of our duty to Him. So they're saying, because of the calamities of this world, you're going to perceive this, and there's going to be sorrow. But you find true happiness, do not despair of finding true happiness in this knowledge, and expect it only in the knowledge of God and the careful discharge of our duty to Him. Okay, it puts much more meaning into that. And then I went back through and I read the commentary preceding the actual verse, and I want to read that too. Solomon especially perceived that the knowledge of wisdom and folly was the vexation of spirit. It vexed him to see that many that had wisdom not use it. In other words, they were vexed, and so they didn't use the wisdom. So in much wisdom there is grief, but that doesn't mean that you don't want the wisdom. It's just you got to deal with it, okay? He found that when he got some knowledge, he could neither gain that satisfaction to himself, nor do that good to others with it which he expected. So he found that he wasn't satisfied in what he could do, and he he didn't get what he expected in helping other people with this, handle this knowledge. The minds and manners of men are crooked and perverse. We are fallible. And we got to admit that. We got to understand that we're weak and we need God in everything. Not just during a pandemic, a real one, or a perceived one, or whatever comes our way. We are sheep. We need the shepherd. We need the Creator. Solomon thought, with his wisdom and power together, thoroughly to reform his kingdom, but he was disappointed. All the philosophy and politics in the world will not restore the corrupt nature of man. Learning will not alter men's natural tempers, nor cure them of their simple distempers. That which is wanting in our knowledge is so much that it cannot be numbered. The more we know, the more we see of our own ignorance. Upon the whole, therefore, he concluded that great scholars do but make themselves great mourners, for in much wisdom is much grief. Now, what's the good news? The good news is based on faith, which is based on trust, trusting the Lord, having faith in the Lord. So I have 2, 4, 6, 7 verses that I want to share. Again, because I think it's important at this time more than any other time in my life. I see this as important to everyone, myself included, because we all battle fear. We have to control it. We have to put our trust in God. We have to direct our attention, and we have to be led by God and the Holy Spirit and what Scripture tells us. So, Psalms 34:8. O taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man that trusteth in him. Okay. Psalm 84:12. O Lord of hosts, blessed is the man that trusteth in thee. Psalms 21:7. For the king trusteth in the Lord, and through the mercy of the Most High he shall not be moved. We can trust and put our faith in him. He's not going to be moved. He's not going to fail us. Psalms 32:10. Many sorrows shall be to the wicked, but he that trusteth in the Lord, mercy shall compass him about. Jeremiah 17:5. Thus saith the Lord, cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and maketh flesh his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. That's a powerful verse. Don't put your trust in man. Proverbs 16:20. He that handleth a matter wisely shall find good, and whoso trusteth in the Lord, happy is he. Wow. He that handleth a matter wisely shall find good. We have a matter here. We have matters all the time, but I'm speaking specifically of the pandemic. That's a matter. It has to be handled wisely. And if it is, he that doeth that shall find good. And whoso trusteth in the Lord, happy is he. Jeremiah 17:7. Blessed is the man that trusteth in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. So, those are wonderful things. Things for your soul, things for your psyche, things for your emotional state, things for your immunity. Okay. One more thing I want to close with. I hope this has been profitable. As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The last thing here, reminder, government agencies have yet to answer a FOIA request for private law 114-31, December 3rd, 2016, that is known to exist. Okay, there has been the serving of a FOIA request to numerous people and numerous agencies. It's going to be very interesting. We know this exists, and it speaks volumes as to what the American government has been up to, longer than most of us have been alive, and it needs to be revealed. So that's going to be interesting, how they're going to handle this. Okay. It's a private law. It's remedy and relief, very similar to the arbitration award and the contract that it establishes, called Bill of Peace or Treaty of Peace. So anyway, God bless you folks. Please go to the website. Take everything the way it should be taken. Do your own research. Make up your own mind. Trust in the Lord. The Lord is good, and He will not fail us. So, God bless.